Last week has been the most challenging since the bubble was established 2.5 months ago. Multiple states imposed lockdowns as community cases popped up, and at one point around half of the Australian population was in some form of lockdown. In response, we've taken a cautious approach given those circumstances. Our decision to close the border was about protecting New Zealanders' health, as well as protecting the long-term interests of our economy and the ability for businesses to stay operating without lockdowns here. We only need look at the case of the Australian tourist in Wellington to see the enormous disruption cases within our border can cause. The closure of the border was a temporary measure to help us get a better handle on the situation, as well for the Australian health authorities to respond to their various outbreaks. As of midnight last night, quarantine-free travel resumed with South Australia, ACT, Tasmania and Victoria. That was on the basis of health advice that it was safe to do so. As part of that advice, and as an added precaution, last week we announced that all travellers from Australia must now have a pre-departure test within 72 hours before leaving Australia. This is a key part of strengthening the Trans-Tasman border. Today, Cabinet considered advice in relation to reopening travel to remaining states. Health advice is that the situation in Western Australia and Northern Territory is contained, and the pause here can be lifted. Cabinet's view was that we were comfortable with this taking place from 11:59 p.m. July the 9th. Again, pre-departure testing continues to be required. For New South Wales and Queensland, the pause remains. However, we recognise New Zealanders have been stranded for some time in these states. We are comfortable that we can safely allow those ordinarily resident here to return to New Zealand from 11:59 p.m. on July 9th. Again, subject to similar preconditions as those who returned from Victoria during the June lockdown, including that they will need to meet all the standard public health requirements. This includes making a declaration that they have not been in a location of interest in the past 14 days, are not symptomatic, are not a close contact, and are not awaiting the results of a COVID-19 test. Any of those things would rule them out from being able to travel. These preconditions will be further refined and released tomorrow. Traveller eligibility criteria will be consistent with those who recently returned in June from Melbourne, which include New Zealand citizens and holders of residence class visas, holders of temporary visas and Australian citizens who last departed New Zealand after 5 April 2021. Holders of current permanent residence visas, including a resident return visa issued by the Government of Australia who last departed New Zealand after 5 April 2021, and relevant family members of people in these categories. Our intention is to review the pause for Queensland on Wednesday, but for New South Wales to remain paused for the near future.